Today's day is July 26, 2026. My name is Nang Hong Lam. Just want to point out a quick note on the Arowra Book Series. Pretty much being bothered by a thought because it's very stressful. Just the last weeks of time been very stressful. Writing like the controversies on writing the Arowra Book Series. Pretty much like just articles is like explaining how I got into writing the Arowra Book Series and things like that, and it's been very stressful. And I mean, I don't pretty much. I'm going with why it is so stressful. Just even though like from what I have observed, like based on my observation, there's not really a lot of people know about it. Why is it so stressful? No one knows. Like very few people might. There's I don't know. Pretty much. If you somehow come upon my PTTS blog or my YouTube channel, that's like the only way. Like you would know about the Arowra Book Series. So I felt like maybe it's just really not that many people know about it and things like that. So I felt, why is it so stressful? Not a lot of people know about it and things like that. Anyway, so I keep kind of like in a way, trying to remind, like, this reminder that it is independence. The Arowra Book Series is independent, and the whole purpose in the beginning, because I felt like in a situation where I'm being forced to commit suicide at the time. Back when I first started writing Arowra back in 2013, around there, I remember it was in a really devastating situation. Basically, I called it Double Dilemma, and I wrote like a around 80 page of articles as explaining about what is the double dilemma, and by using the events of my life, during that around that period of time when the double dilemma happened to me. So using that example to explain about the double dilemma, and I made it into like a blog called a PTTS blog called Double Dilemma, and I posted up on my PTTS blog. So I was thinking maybe, I don't know, just it's, I mean, let's just say, for some sort of investigation reasons, is, the person all of a sudden, someone in San Diego committed suicide. Like, just say, if I did committed suicide because I was being forced to commit suicide, but if I did follow through and, like, my commit suicide attempt was a success and like I get killed, I pretty much, I think there's gonna be some kind of investigation. Why did I, like a person in San Diego committed suicide and things like that. I'm saying more or less, I felt like there's probably gonna be like an investigation on it and things like that. Okay, so pretty much that's how it began writing Adara book series. Anyway, that's why, like I'm saying, that's why I keep it at, that's all I have is just like a word, independent, for writing the Adara book series, and also because back then I was being in that situation, that very devastated situation where I'm being forced to commit suicide, and so I go with those two reasons. For now, just because to respond to why it's so stressful, like just recently, just like been because of been probably around some weeks is time, just each time, like been just this whole Arowra Book Series, it's like just every time get my, like, try to proofread it, try to write my reason behind writing this Arowra books. It's just become very stressful, and I felt, all I got is just the word independence. And back then on 2013, I was in a very devastated situation where I'm being forced to commit suicide. That's all I got. It's like, anyway, like I I don't know, like, so I'm just, you know, I don't know, usually it should be like opposite, it's like seeing a person in a lot of stress maybe could do something to help out that person, it's like, I, that's what I'm just trying to say, why it shouldn't be like this, it's like, person is in a lot of stress, maybe there could be a explanation behind it, why is it so stressful, why this, anyway. So like I'm saying, I still have to read out loud around 70 pages of the Arowra, like the controversy on writing the Arowra book series. Wrote like around 70 pages explaining about each events is, like, that's related to why I started writing the Arowra book series. So it's around 70 pages. I still have to read that out loud. I don't know, like, just really don't know if I'm doing it. Like I'm saying, I just don't know what really behind. All I could, my brainstorming is telling me that, when a person's very stressful, usually there's, like, some sort of help is on the way or things like that. I felt it's more correct to think that way, than, it's sort of like in a way. So anyway, like I'm saying, I don't know. Basically, I just want to keep it at, maybe just manage it, it's like keep everything under management, it's like the Arowra book series under management. That is the goal, just, and I probably wouldn't feel so stressful about it if it's under management, it's like, anyway, like I'm saying, well, that's the thing, it's like pretty much, like I just don't want to go with, maybe there is that tiny bit of chance that I could keep it at under management. Maybe that's why help is not on the way. Maybe see that there is that chance that I could keep everything under management, so there's no help on the way. It's like, anyway. So like I'm saying, I am. I don't know what it's just sort of like, it's independent, and it's a person is just down to like this very devastated situation with I'm being forced to commit suicide and everything. It's sort of like, what the heck is going on? It's like in a way, do I have to get run over by a car and die at the scene? That's the only way to get some attention. It's like, what the heck is going on? It's like, anyway. So I'm saying, just been very stressful, and I don't know, really don't want to think that I could keep everything under management and probably like the world go, sort of have that impressions that I could keep everything under management, so I don't need any help, just so no help needed and things like that. So I don't want to have this sort of confusion and things like that. And nevertheless, I think there could be something related to the DC Gem and DCSS on TCG and CMG Hall of Fame slash database. So like in a way could be related to that because for a period of time from 2000 from April 2017 to January 2020, in those years of time I like kind of I have been posting up posts on my PTTS blog regularly, and all those posts is related to that what I was just saying, about the DC Gem and DCSS on TCG and CMG Hall of Fame slash database. So basically, those regular posts on that, and I didn't really have any sort of official license for doing that. That's like pretty much, that's the license would be called like distributors of card license on DC Jam and DCSS. Pretty much, I was just going with like just. Anyway, I felt maybe it could be related to that. Because it's around like 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So it's around 4 years of time doing that, posting up regularly, and so there was a total of 6 blocks, and each block is around 80 pages of articles. So it's kind of like, and the time to just kind of make it more real, like more visual. I kind of include some illustration with it and times like that. So like I'm just saying, it was just so in that 4 year time, like the could be related to that also. And because I took multimedia, a lot of multimedia classes in the San Diego Mesa College, so I didn't want all those classes to go to a waste. That's why I use what I learned in those multimedia classes to create those illustrations to go along with the 6 block I posted up. So in a way that I don't waste all those, going through all those studying all those multimedia class, and it's a waste and things like that. So I use those skills, is those multimedia skills, to create those illustrations. So it doesn't seem as a waste of time, going through all those study and everything. Mainly because of that, those PTTS block that began in 2016. So because of the posing blocks, posing poses on my PTTS blog, because of that, that is why I brought up about the some like videos where in these videos and the articles I wrote, I sometimes would bring up about that on my PTTS blog from 2016 until current 2026, I haven't got a person leave me a feedback on that, on the things I have posted up regularly. So I haven't received one feedback yet. I think like again, so I was just hoping, to get like a break, that maybe there is some like the TCG and CMG is facing like a recessions, that like something like that, so like like don't say, kind of like it might upset the TCG and CMG, why it's saying they're facing some sort of recession and discourage them even more and things like that. It's like, I think it would be sort of like more official if, like I saying, I don't, it's just really hard for me to say how official or not, because I didn't have an official distributor of cards license. So kind of like, in a way, an official distributor of card license on DC Gem and DCSS. So like, in a way, please, like the TCG and CMG would kind of like argue, please give us that mutual respect. If you think, if you felt like there's some sort of recessions going on, that TCG and CMG reception is going on, that is happening to the kind of a recession that is happening to the TCG and CMG, then give us that mutual respect that we are working on it, to try to get over this recession and things like that, sort of like, in a way, felt like they would make that kind of argument. And pretty much because the multimedia field have a lot to do with web development. And I mean, just it it's more than just, I mean, for now, I the focus would be like web development because of like my PTTS blog, on the website and things like that, and also media authoring, it's like, so gonna keep it at those two, because it had to do a lot, the blocking had to do a lot on the media also. So it's like, so I'm gonna keep it at, media authoring and web design and things like that. And that's in the multimedia field aspect, if because of looking at my college classes, seeing that I took a lot of studying a lot on the multimedia classes. So, it would kind of like, in a way, to go along with me with saying that, I would probably want to focus on the, the web designing aspect and the media authoring aspect to go along with my blogging and things like that. As for journalism, I remember back then on November 2001, when I first made my proposal to the advisor of the Beachcomber, advisor Brian Kerr, and chief of the Beachcomber, Chief Julia. I remember, like the first time making my proposal to them, I was saying, like, just give me a chance at the journalism tryout. And even if for some really hard to believe reason I passed this journalism tryout, you could still kick me out of the journalism department anytime you want and things like that. And they both are in charge of the Mission Bay High School journalism department. And despite I saying that to them, they have been very, providing me with a lot of encouragement and inspiration during the 2 years that I passed the journalism tryout and accepted as a journalist. In that 2 years, 2002 and 2003, they has been very supportive by providing me with encouragement and inspirations on being a journalist. Despite I saying that to them, like right on November 2001, during my proposal to them and things like that. I think the argument would be multimedia and media authoring would be like another words for journalism, so that I could cope with the fears I have on journalism. Anyway, I really like I'm pretty much I'm just gonna I don't know, like maybe, to be more of to be more official, I suppose, because it's to have that license on distributor of cards, license on DC Gem and DCSS. Like I'm saying, that's why I don't know when would that day going to happen or not. So as of now, I really don't have all those answers. And okay, let's just say some sort of voters poll, like a poll, a, a bunch of voters put their name on a sheet of paper to create a poll and to make that decision for the TCG and CMG community to you know send me a letter telling me that you know I'm no longer independent anymore. I have the license, the distributors of cards license on DC Gem and DCSS. So first there is voters getting together. That's number one, and number two, the voters have to sign, to give their signature to a petitions to create a poll, and then they have to make contact with the TCG and CMG community, and the TCG and CMG community have to go through meetings to decide sending me a letter and things like that. Just take a lot of process, and it's, well, pretty much on the other hand, you have, let's just say, a person who have just decided to make commitments to study and research about TCG and CMG, and find out that they need at least hundreds of distributors of card, and they finally, just finally barely just giving out the very first license, a distributor of card license, and that person would be like, sort of like, and would kind of think it is sort of like really what's going on, sort of like in a way why there's only, you know it would be too much, for just one person to just manage this worldwide affairs. It's like distributed of cards on DC Gem and DCSS, just one person doing all of this. So like in a way, look at that, and like I have to pause the video because I think I'm just gonna just, like I'm saying, I just don't want to continue anymore on that. It's sort of like in a way, I think, in summary, I think it's sort of like in a way when I get too much pressure on, how come 9 years of time I didn't have a feedback on my PTTS blog. I think when I have too much pressure on that, I felt like I wanted to defend myself with, there's probably a TCG and CMG recessions happening. It's like, more or less, it's just too much pressure for me to handle. I felt if someone brought that up, I would probably have to defend myself with, recessions happening to TCG and CMG. I felt that is my only way to not get crushed by too much pressure and things like that. But it is up to a person who have the distributor card license on DC Gem and DCSS to say this, recession's happening or not, it's not. So it would be more official that way and things like that. Pretty much, just looking at my TCG and CMG history, I have committed to the TCG and CMG for around 27 years already. So I felt like I have, probably I would, you know, seeing that history felt like, more or less I could, you know, um, more or less these 27 years of commitments to the TCG and CMG, it's equivalent to the distributor of cards license, just to keep it for argument's sake, it's like distributors of card license on DC Gem and DCSS. Okay, so it's just a very hot summer day, so I kind of took out my one layer of my shirts to kind of cool off a bit because it's a really hot weather. Anyway, I'm gonna continue where I left off. So pretty much like I was just saying that I don't know, I looking back during my first or second years of just getting into trading card game, which is abbreviated like TCG. So I remember after I have I don't know, like I'm saying just a quick scene how it was like back then. I was around 15 years old back then, around 1999, still in the middle school and high school years. And remember, I was like saying just first, second year, so still, not really, still doing studies and research on this TCG and CMG and all of that. And so anyway, just so happened I was also participated in the TCG, the weekly TCG tournament, which is called a Pokemon tournament at the time. And remember, I got five first place in a row on my first five. After, I mean, I had more than five, but after the first five in a row, first place, like the crowd, the crowd player was, want to, see if I could talk about my experience and everything on the weekly Pokemon tournament and things like that. And I remember, so kind of go along with them and kind of like have like a show and tell session. So it was kind of like explaining about how I, like got into the trading card game in general, kind of like, and all of that. So like in a way, explaining to the crowd of player about the whole experience, everything. Like I'm saying, but it just so that is just like right at the beginning, and it's just anyway. Like I'm just saying that could be brought up, like I felt maybe something like that, maybe like that, sort of like in a way, what I'm saying back then, so like in a way that I didn't know about DC Gem, DCSS, distributor card license, and all of that back then, was still doing my studies and research on TCG and CMG at the time. Like I'm saying, just So what I say that day, about that whole experience in the weekly TCG tournament and things like that is lacking the knowledge on distributor card license, DC Gem and DCSS and all of that. Anyway, I just want to go, like pretty much, it's just, well, I don't know, like just, I think in a way, it just seems like that's just the way how things are back then. And maybe it might not seem like it it doesn't really matters or anything like that, but to that small community of players and all that, it seems to matter to them, even though it might not seem like it doesn't even have any kind of matters or anything like that. It's like, especially, like having no knowledge of distributor card license, DC Gem, DCSS, and all of that. So it seems like in a way, like, and probably like it like I'm just saying in general, it probably just really like I'm just saying, sort of like in a way, just it don't matter. It's really probably already forgotten and things like that. I'm saying, but just say because of so but if I do have a distributor cards license on DC Gem and DCSS, felt that I could bring up these events. As I say, that's how I began, like my first and second years on the trading card game tournaments, the weekly trading card game tournament. That's how it began back then in my middle school and high school year around 1999. That's how it all began. It's sort of like in a way, to just for people who's wondering how my trading card game history began. So like in a way, anyway, pretty much that's all. Kind of like in a way, just wanted to clear clear things up. That's how. Sort of like in a way that why am I talking about something that it's already forgotten? So that it's very, it's not important and things like that. So I just want to clear that misunderstanding. Maybe that's part of the distributor card license on DC Gem and DCSS is to, like what people want to know how I got involved in the TCG and CMG, how it all began and things like that. So I have to bring that up for that reason. It's like, so that's the reason I bring that up. It's not like I'm trying to bring something that it's already forgotten and not important up and things like that. It's for the license reasons. Is I don't know. I felt maybe more or less maybe just having this brain like this brainstorming thought pretty much. It's like, but maybe history would repeat itself. What if a crowd of people doing the same thing what they did back then in 1999 give me a chance to talk about the Arowra Book Series, like how I did back then talking about the TCG on 1999. I was saying just this brainstorming thought, what if history repeat itself? And so sort of again, something that is forgotten and unimportant. So like, and it would bring up this, like probably would make the Arowra Book Series also like have that sort of um as- associate affiliation, like it is unimportant and will be forgotten and things like that. And but it is all just a brainstorming thought in my head. Where's that crowd of people, that going to give me that chance to talk about the Arowra Book Series. It's just my brainstorming thought. It's sort of like, in a way, don't need to concern about that it is unimportant and will be forgotten. It's just like concern about where is that crowd of people at. It's like, and more or less, I have commitments to TCG and CMG for around 27 years. More or less, it would it would sort of like there would be some sort of something related to TCG and CMG in my writing of the Arowra Book Series. More or less, there's gotta be some sort of aspect, some sort of like mentions bring up something related to TCG and CMG because it's been in my life for 27 years. It would probably be part of my lifestyle, the way it's been so long in my life already. So pretty much, I think I have to sort of like, to come to a conclusion and keep everything at the following. Pretty much like, if I get very lucky, then I would have a crowd of people who would, you know, um, want to hear me talk about the Arowra book series, like how I talk about TCG back on 1999. That's if I am very lucky. And if I'm very bad luck, then I would continue on like then how what happened to me, the last 9 years of no feedback on my PTTS blog. Okay, for argument's sake, a person who really, you know, kind of like just saying, like they would hurt me pretty much, if they were to leave me feedback on my PTTS blog, would tell me that, it would be too much for me to handle, if they were to leave me a feedback on my PTTS blog. They would say that, and they would give me the following reason. It's like TCG, CMG, and the Arowra Book Series. It is too hard for us to say TCG. No, it'll hurt you too much. Pretty much it'll hurt you too much if we were to inform you that TCG, CMG, and Arowra Book Series don't matter, not important, and will be forgotten. Instead, we would tell you that a recessions have happened to TCG, CMG, and Arowra Book Series, instead of telling you that it don't matter, like it is not important and will be forgotten. We will probably tell you that recessions have happened to TCG, CMG, and Arowra Book Series. Maybe to just you know um, giving some sort of cushions to the. It's pretty much something like that. Like I'm saying, like to just kind of like in a way until I have my distribute, until I got authorized with the distributor of cards license on DC Gem and DCSS, then I could kind of like in a way fix what happened. Until then, I have to go with something. It's like can't just keep saying that adversity constantly happening to me almost daily. It's just come on. It's just you can't just always go with that. It's like it seems like right now what I need to focus on is to find a person who have distributor of card license on DC Gem and DCSS to declare me as a novelist who have 27 years of TCG and CMG history and make these decorations noticeable to the public, pretty much so that people have these recognitions of me as a novelist who have 27 years of TCG and CMG history. As for me, I probably, just, you know, even, like, I would felt to this, like, real, like, the discouragement that it is just probably gonna be like my 9 years of no feedback on my PTTS blog. It's like, it's probably gonna be like that. That's, my discouragement, but it felt like, that that's not what I should worry about. It's worry about if there is that distributor, that person who have the distributor card license to do that for me. Sort of like a person who have the distributor card license on DC Gem and DCSS to take that step and do that for me. That's what I should be concerned about. You're not concerned about that it's gonna be like the 9 years of no feedback on my PTTS blog. In summary, I think all of this whole video could have avoided if I was at a exhibition event or panelist event, some sort of event in general, and talking about what I'm talking about in this video with people listening to it, like crowd of people that could have avoided this whole, like, all of this. I felt so again, like, but this is not the first time I'm doing this, so in a way, and each time I'm doing this, I would say the same thing, that it would have been a better outcome. There's a crowd of people listening to it, like how back then, on 1999, like the crowd player who's listening to me talking about the trading card game and things like that. TCG slash trading, it's abbreviated. Trading card game is abbreviated TCG. So like the crowd people listening to me talking about TCG, and pretty much, like each time I make one of these videos, I would say that, like it's the same thing, that it would have been a better outcome if there's a crowd of people listening to what I'm saying and things like that. As of now, I apologize. I don't know when will that gonna be happening. Where's that crowd of people that would listening to me talking about the Arowra Book Series and things like that. As of now, I really don't have the answer to this. I don't know when will that day will arrive. And anyway, another apology I want to make is, well, in because of the 9 year no feedback on my PTTS blog, so I have so for some years of time I have been having problems with my funds, is kind of like in a way. So I haven't really been attending the International Comic Con in San Diego. It's an annual event, 4 days annual events. It's at the downtown area in the convention center. So I haven't been attending that event. I felt maybe that's where I would probably get a crowd of people listening to me talking about the Arowra Book Series. And I'm also in that, I'm living in San Diego. Probably that would be one of the places. Anyway, I just know that it's around this time of year, like the summer. The Comic Con usually happen. It is happening. It's been like in the summertime around this time, pretty much like in around right now. So the probably it's already either already happening right now or it's already passed. So I don't know. Like it's been some years already. I haven't been attending the Comic Con. I mean, back then I attended because mainly, even though back then I attended the Comic Con mainly for the annual TCG and CMG tournaments is in the game room at the Comic Con. I mean, mainly for those reasons is, I mean, I mean, did also attended the events is in the events book, would look through some of the more like to go with my schedule and things like that. I do also like I was just saying, but it just more focused because I has been try to maintain the TCG and CMG trophy titles is that I have. So I try to want to focus more on that because of the title I have and things like that. Okay, I just kind of got off topic a little bit. Basically, I just don't want to get into talking about the TCG and CMG trophy title for now. It might gonna bring up a lot of things, and just kind of want to wrap things up right now. So that was a kind of like off topic right there. I don't know. I don't know. Like I was just saying, it just pretty much I was just being. This is like this bothering thoughts. What if some sort of like exhibitors who want me to come to their booth, kind of in a way, exhibitors invite me over to their booth, to talk about the Arowra Book Series as a way, to get people to come to their booth and something like that. No, like I think that just like it seems really because I just haven't been attending the Comic Con for some years of time. It seems like it's really nevertheless, I just brought that the Comic Con up because it is around this time of year. That's when the Comic Con happens. So I just want to bring that up and want to make apologies that I haven't been attending the Comic Con because of my fun reasons, is like having problems is with my funds and things like that. Anyway, I'm being bothered by the following thoughts. I just couldn't help it. It's just been bothering me. I felt like you know um okay, I'm gonna pause the video for a second. Okay, there was some background activity. I'm gonna continue while the background activity is happening. Okay, anyway, pretty much I just wanted to say that maybe it's just this bothering thought that's been happening to me that you know s- people would just tell me, just go with how I've been going with, the TCG and CMG, just like talk about how I feel about them. Like, back in the past, it's like during those years is when, I was talking to the crowd of people about how my experience on the TCG and CMG, just do what I do, like how I did in the past, just on the Arowra Book Series, just kind of like just go with that, just like, so I felt maybe that's what people wanted to tell me, and I kind of, that's what people going to tell me, and I'm just gonna go with that, and then I find out that it is all just a trap, someone just trapping me, it's like that. because I'm gonna find out that TCG and CMG is not important and will be forgotten, and it's kind of like in a way, why so like how could you fall for that? You been having commitment for 27 years on TCG and CMG, and you still fall for that and things like that. It's like, so pretty much I felt maybe it's like a trap. It's like you just wanted to trap me on that, and so just basically just been bothering by this thought. It's like, but this sort of like in a way, it's all that's the whole purpose, on having exhibition exhibition events and panelist events, book tour events is in general, to have a chance to talk about the Arowra Book Series. When's that gonna happen and things like that. And from my memory, the only time I have talked in front of a crowd of people is when I'm talking about TCG and CMG. So it's kind of like in a way, that's why I only based it on those experiences, because that was the only time I have talked in front of a crowd of people. It's when I talking about TCG and CMG. I felt, okay. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's like, all right, maybe the first time you're talking about the Adora book series in front of the crowd people, you would feel nervous about it. How about you just read out of a sheet of paper what you want to say about it? For the first time, maybe to just get past the nervousness and things like that. It's like, I think maybe after a while, I'll probably get used to it and I don't need that sheet of paper anymore. I could just, like I'm saying, just for the nervousness reasons is, just maybe reading out of sheet of paper, just get past the nervousness reasons is. And anyway, like I'm just saying, something like that. It's just, like I'm saying, the only time I have done talking in front of a crowd of people is when I'm talking about TCG and CMG. So like it might be something new to me and things like that. And I think probably I should probably request for a private exhibition room to talk about the Arowra Book Series. Also will help with the nervousness for the first few time at least. It's like, and I probably should limit the room size to probably around 30 to 50 people. It's like not too many people. Probably would help out with the nervousness and things like that. Because I remember when I was serving as club president of the Mesa College Multimedia Club, the computer lab I was in, that was the meeting location for the club presidents. See, for the Mesa College Multimedia Club, it's at a computer lab, and it's around, well, probably like maximum, like it's around there, 30 to 50 people at max, to be in that room and things like that. So I felt maybe something like that, just to, I don't know. Yeah, I think it would be like, first few time would really help get through the nervousness and things like that. So read out of a piece of paper and requesting for a private exhibition room. So taking these steps would help out with the nervousness and things like that. I don't know. I think maybe stop tormenting myself that I will be too, sort of like in a way that they will not gonna have any recognitions for the Adora Books series, because I'm too nervous to get in front of a crowd of people to talk about it and things like that. And like I'm saying, I don't know really, like I just been like what I've been saying, probably it would have been a better outcome if I saying what I'm saying right now in front of a crowd of people. So like there was actually a few video I was actually requesting, maybe it could be at a conference or public hearing, it's just like to kind of like in a way to just get, just to stop stop with, sort of like in a way give myself a chance, to get over being sort of like in the situation I'm in right now, just like, so there was a few video talking about maybe if I could request to be at a conference or at a public hearing with a crowd of people listening to what I have to say and things like that. And anyway, this update, this is probably like this is the fifth. This should be the fifth Arowra Book Series update. And like I was saying, it was supposed to be just like a quick note, but it's almost an hour already. It's like 56 minutes already, and it's supposed to be like a quick note. But anyway, I don't know. Like, should have been able to get past the nervousness right now. Like I felt that's pretty much the barring thought, and I should able to get past. I mean, since I started writing Adora back on 2013, and it's been, even though that was not like the throughout, year after year, it's just been like, that's the starting point, and maybe for like months of time, and then I stop, and then I start again at May 2022. That's the second period. So it wasn't like, ongoing for year after year. It was just, like a period of time and then stop and then start the second period of time and then stop. And now this is the third period of time, July 2026. Currently, right now, it's the third period. So it wasn't like an ongoing. And I felt that I should, more or less should have some sort of plan on talking about in front of a crowd of people and things like that. And pretty much that is what I'm been bothering by this thought. I don't know, like, and it's just, I don't know, I just really maybe I don't like the past. I suppose like in the past, those videos is where I request to be in a public hearing or like a conference where the crowd people would listen to what I have to say. I suppose that would be like the steps is, because right now, I don't know, like it felt that I think that's just part, like again, maybe just hopefully, getting the independent recognitions and it could relieve me from these pressures is, it's like, oh, it's sort of like in a way, if I do have the independent recognition, then I could felt, that that's just part of the whole experience as independence. And anyway, it's just part of my job to promote the Arowra Book Series. It's just really hard for me to apologize that you have heard of the Arowra Book Series because it is independent, because it's part of my job that I supposed to, promote about the Arowra Book Series. So it's very hard for me to apologize that that you have heard of the Arowra Book Series because it is independent and things like that. Anyway, as of now, if for some reason you heard of the Arowra Book Series and try to look it up and can't find it because I I still don't know the exact date when it could be, get through all the publishing process and published it to the world so people could read about it. I really don't know how it's gonna turn out, like what's gonna the publishing process gonna be like and things like that. Like I'm I just haven't really, just because I've been just focusing a lot on the blogging and the YouTube channel that I really don't have sort of like maybe a publisher who could guide me through this process would really help me out a lot and things like that. And I don't know, I just having all these this is like editors, illustrators, publishers, and all the different staff positions to to get through this whole process, publishing process. It would also help me out, So, like I'm saying, anyone who interested to be part of the Arowra Book Series, could talk to me about it and things like that. And I felt maybe after people heard that the Arowra Book Series is independent, might get some sort of discouragement about it and things like that. Could see why and things like that. And I that's just part of the whole establishment, as well. Have to be prepared, because it is independence. And anyway, I don't know like how it really as of now, it's just like I'm just gonna keep updating what's going on on the Adara book series. The reason, like at the beginning of this video, I was saying the reason I have to make this video because I'm feeling very stressful each time I work on it, either proofreading it or like continue writing book six. Because currently I'm out at book six, Adora book six redemptions. So either I'm proofreading the other books is book 1 through 5, or continue writing book 6. I felt very distressed about it, so that's the whole reason I made this video, because it just felt a lot of distress slash stress, just very stressful, So that's why I made this video, is like to hopefully, maybe it doesn't have to be like that, why each time I just proofreading the Ada book series, or continue writing the Ada book series, felt so much distress slash stress on it and about it and things like that. So just so pretty much that's the goal in this video, which is maybe after this video could ease up some of the distress slash stresses and things like that. And okay, it's already over an hour already, so pretty much I'm just gonna have to go with what I have right now. It's like, so hopefully, like, well, for now, just going with what I have. I don't know, like, like like I'm probably just making these updates as I'm going along, just to save me some of these I don't know, like pretty much whatever I have to say I would say in these updates is, and for now I'm gonna just keep it at that for now. Okay, so thank you for watching PTTS. Well, okay, one more thing. Basically, okay, so anyway, that will be all for this video. If I have anything I want to add to this video, I will add to the next video. Thank you for watching PTTS. Thank you for following PTTS. I'm gonna end this video in 3, 2, 1.